On today's video, we're going to take you on a deep dive of all of the best and worst of the suburbs around Raleigh, North Carolina, giving you all the goods and the not so goods about each of them so you can decide which of the suburbs is right for you to move to. Hello everyone, this is Chris Morton, one of the co-owners of the Morton Bradbury Real Estate Group, and let's get started with the number one most popular suburb that everyone, all of our YouTube viewers ask us about, and that's Cary, North Carolina. So one of the best things about Cary, North Carolina is it's close to everything. It's super centrally located, and that was one of the reasons why it really grew up and became such a prominent suburb that it is today. Another great positive of Cary has really diverse, amazing restaurants. Heron's is in Cary. It is a 5-diamond AAA award-winning gourmet restaurant. Certainly going to be getting 1 or 2 Michelin stars as soon as the Michelin judges get done doing their work here in our area. It's also a great place for cuisines from all over the world. Middle Eastern restaurants, Indian restaurants, Chinese, Korean, Mexican, Ethiopian, you name it, and it's probably in Cary. And it makes Cary a really, really great place for locals to go visit or live in because of all the cool restaurants. There's also some really great things to do in Cary. The downtown for a long time was a wasteland and really nothing there, but with the new Cary Park online and all of the restaurants and shopping that's sprouted up around downtown Cary, it's really made Cary a very compelling place to live. Absolutely though, one of the killer things about Cary that we cannot forget to mention is Fenton. Fenton is a mixed-use development that's just come online in the last couple years. Amazing restaurants in Fenton, some great shopping, everything from Rejuvenation, Pottery Barn, Williams-Sonoma stores, all the way to a Nike store. Really, really cool. They have ice skating rink in the winter, and there's a Paragon movie theater there. Really good food, amazing screens, really great place to see a movie. We've seen a couple movies ourselves at Fenton, even though it's about a 30-40 minute drive from our home in Wake Forest. We still go to Paragon because it's one of the best theaters around. Beyond all of this, Cary is really benefits from what we said earlier, their location. You're super close to the airport. Research Triangle Park is super close. Lots of people have moved to Cary, North Carolina because they work in Research Triangle Park because it's such an easy drive. And this is one of the reasons Cary, North Carolina is one of the most popular suburbs around Raleigh. Now let's talk about the worst aspects of Cary. There are major roads that run in and around Cary. Interstate 40, US 1, and the Cary Parkway. These are frequently jammed up during rush hour. There's just so many people using these roads in and around Cary that it becomes a parking lot in some parts of the day, just something you need to be prepared for. Also, aside from downtown Cary, there's a lot of sprawling neighborhoods in this city. Many of them are attractive, but some are not so attractive, and that includes all the different price bands. Also, unfortunately, if you're looking to buy new construction in Cary or newer construction even in Cary, you're gonna have to accept that you're gonna have a small yard. Because of the limited amount of land left in Cary, they're building homes on smaller and smaller lots, and we're not quite at the point where you can touch your neighbor out your side window, but it's unfortunately getting close. Also, by and large, other than Fenton and downtown Cary to some aspect, by and large, Cary shuts down and they roll up the streets at about 9 o'clock at night. It gets to be very boring, very difficult to find any restaurants, and certainly there's very little nightlife in Cary. So it's definitely a city that you're gonna wanna live in if you want, go to bed early, be home at 9 o'clock, that sort of thing. Also, its high cost of living is something you should expect in Cary. Median home price in Cary is currently coming in at a whopping $625,000 for the median home price for a home in Cary. That's fairly high for our area. Also, another negative, public transportation is pretty limited. There's only a few routes where you can take a bus to get from point A to point B in Cary, and so it's mostly means that you're going to have to take a car and have a car to get around anywhere in the Cary area. As well, limited character. Most everything is fairly sanitized. There's been some strict zoning ordinances from the city of Cary, which means signage is pretty bland. I think most everything is brown. And Overall, everything is pretty homogenized in its look because of this strictness. Now, with all that being said, the positives of Cary definitely outweigh the negatives. Has really good road systems that's very, very organized. It's just that you have to accept that some parts of the day you're going to have traffic jams, but by and large, all of the amenities you're getting in Cary make it a very compelling place to live. In fact, so compelling, we've had 9 buyers come to us this year, mostly from our YouTube channel, that have settled in Cary. It's one of the more popular cities, as we said, to settle in the Triangle area, and likely to be a good fit for you as well. Next up, we have North Raleigh, North Carolina. Now, granted, North Raleigh is not a suburb. Do not come at me in the comments. But because it's so compelling as an area, we thought we would include it in this list because it sort of acts as its own city. No one would be surprised if they put a city hall somewhere in North Raleigh and it became its own city eventually. But let's talk about all the good parts of North Raleigh. First off, it has great access to the entire triangle. Because Interstate 540 runs through North Raleigh, you can be at the Research Triangle Park in about 20 minutes, downtown Raleigh in about 23 minutes, and to the airport in about 15 to 20 minutes. It's really, really great place to live for that. Also, there's some amazing restaurants in North Raleigh and more coming online all the time. Also, shopping is really plentiful in North Raleigh. You're less than 15 minutes from the North Hills complex with all the cool restaurants and shops there. Also, Lafayette Village, the French-inspired complex, shopping and dining complex in North Raleigh, is right there at the corner of Honeycutt and Falls of Neuse. As well, you've got Brennan Station with the Trader Joe's there, and so many more opportunities in North Raleigh. Also, there's outside recreation. You've got Falls Lake in North Raleigh, so you've got the boating, the hiking, all of that stuff you can imagine. Greenway trails run all the way through North Raleigh as well. Easy access to go for a hike or a run or a bike ride, all of that sort of thing. You can also get much more for your money in North Raleigh compared to, say, Midtown, where North Hills is, or especially downtown Raleigh or Cary for that matter. Definitely can get much more home and many more opportunities to buy a home. There's generally more homes for sale in North Raleigh than in Midtown or downtown Raleigh or Cary. Also, the neighborhoods in North Raleigh are really beautiful. Tons of trees. There's lakes around, as we've said. Beautiful architecture and some really, really charming neighborhoods. Bedford at Falls River comes to my mind, as well as Falls River, the neighborhood, and Wakefield Plantation. Some really, really great neighborhoods in North Raleigh. Plenty of opportunities generally to find a home in North Raleigh as compared to other parts of Raleigh or in Cary. Now let's talk about the worst aspects of North Raleigh. You've got a high cost of housing as compared to other parts of the Raleigh area. Median home price currently coming in around $500,000. Also, traffic congestion can be an issue, especially dealing with Falls of Neuse. Currently, as we're filming this video, it is lots of pylons and traffic diversion as they're improving and changing around Falls of Neuse. So be prepared for the traffic congestion you're going to experience. Lots of rapid growth in this area has led to constant construction. Unfortunately, just something you have to deal with regarding North Raleigh. There's also, unfortunately, limited walkability. You pretty much have to have a car to get anywhere around in North Raleigh, other than in your neighborhood, of course. And lack of public transportation. Generally, the bus system does not go everywhere, limited to going a few different places in downtown Raleigh from North Raleigh, unfortunately. That being said, North Raleigh is one of our favorite places. In fact, we are looking for our next personal home in North Raleigh because of its great location and all the great amenities. We have helped a ton of home buyers from our YouTube channel specifically move into North Raleigh because it is such a compelling place to live, and we've gotten some great response from the people that we've helped find homes in North Raleigh. Next up, let's turn to Wake Forest, North Carolina, which is just to the north of North Raleigh. So the best parts of Wake Forest, it has a small town feel, even though it's a medium-sized suburb. Lots of amenities are here, and it's really, really close to Raleigh. Some great benefits of Wake Forest in that regard. Also, there's lots of parks and outdoor activities in Wake Forest. It is a great place to live if you're into the great outdoors, hiking, biking, etc. Also, it's relatively affordable, especially compared to North Raleigh, Raleigh in general, Cary, or Chapel Hill. There's also lots of local events, clubs, and volunteering opportunities for people who want to get into that sort of thing in Wake Forest. It has really a strong sense of community, lots of stuff to do community related in Wake Forest. On the flip side, there's some not so great things about Wake Forest as well. It's really getting overdeveloped. It has become a really popular place to live, and construction is going on there. It has terrible traffic for a mid-sized town. There's delays that are really frequent on the roads, especially US 1, that can get really jammed up because it's the only major road running through Wake Forest. Even on short trips, you can expect it's going to take 15-20 minutes to get from point A to point B in Wake Forest, much less having to go into Raleigh. For example, from our home in Wake Forest down to North Hills on a Friday afternoon for dinner, you can look at about a 35 to 45 minute drive. So not so fun, especially if you're running late like we generally are for a dinner reservation. Also, there's very little nightlife in Wake Forest, if any. There's a few things going on White Street in downtown, but by and large, just like in Cary, they roll the streets up pretty early in Wake Forest. Also, schools are relatively overcrowded in Wake Forest. You just gotta be prepared that you're gonna be probably dealing with some rezoning issues as you go through the grades if you have kids. And again, as we said, it's not so affordable to live in Wake Forest. However, it is definitely much more affordable than Raleigh, Cary, Chapel Hill, and some of the other places on this list that we're talking about. So just know that it isn't super inexpensive to live in Wake Forest, but it's less expensive than in other parts of the Triangle area. And by the way, I should interject here, we are going to be talking on this video only about the 15 biggest suburbs in the Raleigh area. We're not going into detail about all the smaller suburbs simply because this video would last a couple of hours if we did so. We'll definitely delve into some of the smaller suburbs in future videos, but just know these are the top 15 suburbs around Raleigh that we're talking about today. Next up, let's talk about Apex, North Carolina. Apex is a really cool suburb around Raleigh. It has a historic downtown, has a variety of local shops and restaurants, and a lot of really great community events in Apex. There's Peak Fest, the old-fashioned 4th of July celebration, Trick or Treat on Salem Street, and the Apex Music Festival, just to name a few. Also, there's over 160 acres of parks in Apex, including the Apex Community Park and the American Tobacco Trail. Also, Apex has access to some of the best healthcare facilities in all of North Carolina. You're also really close to some major places in the Triangle area, like Research Triangle Park, you're only 20 minutes away, and the airport, you're only also about 20 minutes away, making Apex a really great place to live if you need to commute into Research Triangle Park or even into places like Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. It's super easy to get into any of the major cities from Apex relatively quickly. It also has a growing real estate market. Things are appreciating in Apex. It's a place that a lot of people want to move to. And in fact, it was ranked number 3 best suburb to raise a family in all of North Carolina. But with all the good things about Apex, there's some bad things as well. During rush hour, just like with Cary, you can experience some gridlock. The roads just aren't built at this point in time for all the ongoing construction we are seeing in Apex. And again, that is another negative of Apex, ongoing construction. You're living in a construction zone. There's just so much growth going on that you feel like construction is a daily part of life. Also, there's limited downtown parking and walkability. It's a great downtown, very cool downtown. Apex Wings is down there. We rave on that all the time. But there's not a lot of downtown parking and not a lot of availability to walk around too much in Apex in general. Lots of the roads, as we said, are outdated. It's just something that you have to get used to as they improve and do construction in Apex. It's going to eventually be easy place to commute around, but right now you just got to accept the roads are a bit outdated. And another thing that's kind of not so good about Apex, other than the downtown area with all the character you can find down there, the rest of Apex is fairly cookie cutter. All of the neighborhoods pretty much look alike. All of the different shopping opportunities look alike. It's fairly homogeneous, just something to be aware of. That being said, Apex, a really great place to live. We've helped, I think, 10 families move to Apex in the last year, so definitely a popular place, definitely a place we recommend you check out and explore further should you be deciding to move to the Raleigh area. Next up, we have Wendell, North Carolina. This is one of our favorite places in the entire Triangle area. It has some really cool character, lots of great stuff going on there. We've helped over 15 families moved there in the last year. So you guys seem to agree with this as well. One of the great things about Wendell is it's downtown. The downtown of Wendell has been listed on the National Registry of Historic Places. It's a very walkable downtown. Lots of cool shops and restaurants have sprung up over the last few years in downtown Wendell, making it a really compelling place to go visit, whether you live in Wendell or not. There's also lots of parks in Wendell. You've got the Wendell Park, Robertson Mill Pond Reserve, the Wendell Country Club, and many, many others. Also, one of the big claims to fame for Wendell is Wendell Falls. It's a mega neighborhood that has really caused the whole character of Wendell to change dramatically over the last few years. It's a giant community neighborhood from Newland Companies out of California. They've done a phenomenal job. It's one of our favorite neighborhoods in the entire Raleigh Triangle area, and it has really great sidewalks, a pool complex with a clubhouse, shopping in the neighborhood. Really cool neighborhood that has really, again, changed the character of Wendell. Another really cool thing about Wendell is it's really close to Raleigh. You're only about 15 miles northeast of Raleigh, giving you super easy access into the city. You can be from Wendell to downtown Raleigh in about 15 to 20 minutes, which is really surprising when you consider geographically where Wendell is located. But it really gives Wendell a very compelling aspect to it, and another great reason that you would want to maybe consider Wendell for your next home. It's also very affordable compared to other cities that are the same distance from Raleigh. You can live in Cary and be 15 minutes from Raleigh, or you can be in Wendell and live 15 minutes from Raleigh, and certainly Wendell is going to be less expensive. But with all those positives, there's also some negatives about Wendell. Again, and it's going to sound like a broken record, but the local roads are not keeping up with all the growth that Wendell has experienced. Be prepared that you're going to end up having some minor traffic jams in Wendell. A little difficult to navigate around until you get on the interstate and get on your way, but just be prepared for that. Also, schools are getting to be a bit overcrowded in Wendell as more and more people are moving into the area, and they just haven't been able to build the schools to catch up. Also, right in Wendell, you're looking at some limited job opportunities. There's not a lot of industry in Wendell. You're having to drive into other parts of the Raleigh Triangle area. There's also limited dining and shopping. You're really reliant on nearby Knightdale for a lot of the big box stores such as Target and Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, that sort of thing. There is some shopping in Wendell. You've got Publix grocery store and some mom and pop stuff and some small chain stuff. But by and large, if you're needing big box items, you're gonna have to drive to Nightdale or into Raleigh. It also feels fairly isolated, even though you're close to Raleigh. Some people, that can be a negative. They don't wanna be out in the hinterlands. They wanna be in and amongst the action. Wendell is probably not gonna be for them. Again, you can get to Raleigh fairly quickly from Wendell, but it's not that close feeling. It's just something you have to deal with. And by the way, if this list is getting you excited about a move to the Raleigh area, contact us at the information below. Our team would be honored to guide you towards your next dream home in the Raleigh area. Next up, we have Roseville, North Carolina. This is a city that is close to Wake Forest, and one of the big positives of Roseville is you are living basically in Wake Forest, but you're not paying all of the Wake Forest prices. Homes are less expensive there. You've got all the amenities and restaurants of Wake Forest without all the hassle of the cost of Wake Forest. You still have that small town feel, which sadly Wake Forest has kind of lost a little bit of, and most of the cities and we're talking about today unfortunately have lost. You've still got that in Roseville. You're only 15 miles northeast of Raleigh, so you can get to Wake Forest and Raleigh really quickly from Roseville. There's also lots of parks and playgrounds and community events in Roseville. It gives Roseville a really nice character, lots of community feel, and makes it a really nice place to live. There's also green spaces and walking trails and nearby lakes. If you like to be out in nature, Roseville may be an ideal place for you to live. There's also a growing selection of shops and restaurants and services. For a long time, Roseville had a Family Dollar and a McDonald's and a Hardee's restaurant, and pretty much very little else. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming to Roseville, like the Cobblestone Village mixed use development, which is coming to downtown Roseville. Very cool. It's coming online very soon. Exciting project, and even more other things coming to Roseville in the very near future. But with all the positives of Roseville, there's also some negatives that you probably want to consider before packing your bags and heading towards the city of Roseville. For example, it's fairly boring for a city of its size. It really should have more activities. I think a lot of the development that you would have had normally in Roseville has made its way into Wake Forest, and the developers and business folks are thinking, why be in Roseville when we can be on the Roseville side of Wake Forest and get the best of both worlds? Luckily, there's more stuff coming, but unfortunately right now there's not a whole lot of action going on, not a whole lot of restaurants and shops in Roseville. Just something you need to be prepared for. As well, major developments in Roseville have resulted in constant construction. I feel like I'm saying this about all the suburbs around Raleigh. Growth equals construction, and construction equals traffic and aggravation with getting around from point A to point B. It's just something you kind of have to expect and be prepared for now. Also, you need to be prepared for long commutes. If you are planning on working at the Research Triangle Park, Roseville may not be a good place for you to live. You're looking at about a 45-minute drive during the rush hour times from Roseville into Research Triangle Park. And if you have an early morning flight out of RDU, you probably want to consider staying at a hotel near the airport, because it's a 40-minute drive from Roseville into the airport area. You will be guaranteed to miss your flight if you're not prepared for that long of a drive. Also, another negative, as we're filming this, there's not a lot going on in downtown Roseville. It's a fairly bland area. Now, I have to say, there is major development going on, like that cobblestone village I talked about, that's going to dramatically change the character of downtown Roseville. This is a mixed-use development. There's apartments, and in fact, the apartments are already online, and lots of restaurants and shops going to be in this complex. So know that if you're planning a move to Roseville, it may look bleak right now, but things are going to change dramatically in the very near future. Next up, we have Garner, North Carolina, and one of the great things about Garner, North Carolina is it's attached at the hip to Raleigh, North Carolina. You can be in downtown Raleigh in only about 14 minutes from most parts of Garner. Super cool. It also offers way more affordable housing than Raleigh and some of the other cities on this list today. You've got a small town vibe with strong community involvement. So those are some really good positives. Also, there's several parks and greenways in Garner. You're super close to Lake Benson Park, among many others. And the area has been developing steadily. There is huge future potential. You buy in Garner right now and you are not guaranteed to have some appreciation, but it's very likely you're going to have appreciation due to all the growth going on. There's also lots of shopping centers and restaurants that are coming to Garner right now, and there's not a lot of congestion. Really, compared to Raleigh or Durham or some of the other cities on our list today, traffic is generally less stressful in Garner than most anywhere else around in the Raleigh Triangle area. Some of the bad things about Garner that you probably need to consider before making a move there: there's limited express routes into downtown Raleigh, Research Triangle Park, or the RDU airport. Basically, rush hour commutes can take you up to an hour during the peak traffic times from Garner to just about anywhere you need to go for work. There's also few dining options and little to no nightlife in Garner, just something to be prepared for. There is still the small town charm we talked about earlier, but that is dwindling as the growth happens, so just be prepared for that. And overall, there's limited amenities in Garner. You pretty much have to drive into downtown Raleigh to get any of the cool amenities of the Triangle area. Next up, we have Clayton, North Carolina, and one of the great things about Clayton, it has abundant outdoor spaces. The Clayton River Walk on the Neuse is there. Clemens Educational State Forest is in Clayton. Lots of great opportunities to get out, hiking, biking, etc. in Clayton. It also has a vibrant art and culture scene. It has a growing economy with great community events like the Clayton Harvest Festival, summer concerts, farmers markets, the Christmas parade and tree lighting. Got a really great growing economy in Clayton as well. Lots of growth is going on in Clayton. It's also got easy access into Raleigh, and best of all, for you beach lovers like myself, you're only about a 2-hour drive from Clayton to the beach. There's also some fairly not so good things about Clayton. For example, during rush hour on Interstate 40 and US 70, you can expect some lengthy backups. The intersections are often jammed all during the day, and it is just getting to be an area where traffic is getting to be an issue, unfortunately. There's also some massive new home developments that are happening in Clayton, also some massive road projects that are going on in Clayton, and all these things together combine to make Clayton a rather difficult place to get from point A to point B. Also, it's unfortunately, even though you're fairly close to a lot of stuff, it still can feel rural and disconnected for those people that want to be part of the nightlife and don't want the super quiet. Clayton may be a bit of a stretch for you to live in. Also, luxury and high-end home options are unfortunately fairly limited. So if you want to move to Clayton and buy yourself a mansion, you're probably going to be out of luck, unfortunately. And there's very limited variety of dining options in Clayton as we currently speak. That is changing. You're definitely seeing some growth, but unfortunately you're pretty much stuck with Smithfield's Chicken and Barbecue and things like that, Mexican restaurants, etc. right now in Clayton. That is changing, but right now that's the way it is. Next up, we have Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina. We talk about Fuquay-Varina all the time on this channel. It's one of our favorite cities, and it turns out it's one of the favorite cities of a lot of our YouTube viewers. We've helped 14 families this year move into Fuquay-Varina, and there's lots of good, compelling reasons why, such as there's a range of housing options in Fuquay-Varina and price ranges as well. Tons of options for housing. You can buy anything from a starter home all the way up to a fairly large, luxurious home in Fuquay-Varina. Also, there's great outdoor opportunities in Fuquay. There's over 20 parks in the city, more than 13 miles of greenway and park trails. Super cool. Also, there's a great community spirit in Fuquay-Varina. There's lots of events like the Balloon Festival, holiday parades, and farmers markets in Fuquay-Varina. Also, some really great local restaurants we talk about all the time on this channel. Vicious Fishes, among others. There's tons of different restaurants in Fuquay-Varina. And if you're into craft beers, Fuquay-Varina's become a bit of a craft beer hotspot. There's multiple places to go and try the different brews around. As well, another really cool thing about Fuquay-Varina, it has two historic downtowns. Fuquay, Springs, and Verina are only separated by a 15-minute walk. These were at one time and another two separate small towns that merged to become Fuquay-Varina that we know now today. So it has a really cool character. You've got two downtowns, so really great feel to the area. As well, you've got relatively easy access to Raleigh and Durham from Fuquay-Varina. There's also some not so good parts of Fuquay-Varina. It has limited roads, limited access in and out of the city, unfortunately. Residents say it's also becoming Cary 2.0 with really homogenized, standardized housing developments and a lot of chain stores. Also, all of the new home subdivisions and developments have really crowded out Fuquay's rural charm. You're getting a lot of, again, homogenized neighborhoods and pushing the rural nature of Fuquay-Varina further and further out. Also, schools are unfortunately getting to be a bit overcrowded in Fuquay-Varina, and you can expect frequent rezoning. And also, although you can still get a good value for your money in Fuquay-Varina, home prices are rising in the city. Median home price is currently coming in at $465,000, and there's always construction going on and construction noise, so that's something you're going to have to be prepared for and accept. That all being said, as you know, if you've watched any number of videos on our channel here, we have been excited about Fuquay-Varina for many years. It's one of the most popular cities for our YouTube viewers who've reached out to us after watching our videos, and Fuquay-Varina has a ton of future potential ahead of it. Next up, we have Holly Springs, North Carolina. And one of the great things about Holly Springs, it's super close to Research Triangle Park. You can be in Research Triangle Park from most parts of Holly Springs in about 22 minutes. And you can be at the RDU airport in only about 25 minutes, give or take, from most parts of Holly Springs. It's near major highways that connect Holly Springs to Raleigh, Durham, Cary, and Apex. So it's easy to get around from point A to point B. And it was ranked one of the best small cities in America recently. It has really great upside. Lots of people love Holly Springs and love moving to Holly Springs. Also has many parks and trails. You've got Bass Lake Park, the Womble Park, and Sug Farm, among many other parks and trails in the Holly Springs area. There's also lots of shopping and dining options, including a lot of local dining options that you can partake in living in Holly Springs. But there's also some negatives to Holly Springs. We've talked about these negatives quite frequently on this channel. Holly Springs can feel very sanitized. It's very much like Disney World is to Americana. It's very sanitized and relatively boring, especially the downtown. Although it's definitely getting better, it's fairly boring in Holly Springs. There's also some crowded main roads going in and out of Holly Springs. You can expect that your commute to Raleigh RTP RDU can take longer than you would expect if you were just looking on a map. There's also limited nightlife and entertainment after hours, something you should be prepared for. They definitely truly roll up the streets in Holly Springs after dark. And another knock on Holly Springs, locals feel like you need more local restaurants and bars to be added to Holly Springs. It's very limited in what is offered as far as restaurants and things to do after hours in Holly Springs, especially compared to other cities of its size. And there's limited plans for pedestrian greenways or bypass routes in Holly Springs, unfortunately. Next up, we have Morrisville, North Carolina. And one of the great things about Morrisville is it has an amazingly prime location. You're only 8 minutes away from the Research Triangle Park and only about 11 minutes away from the RDU Airport. So you've got a super easy commute to just about anywhere via I-540, Interstate 40, and NC 54 highway. There are also thousands of job opportunities in Morrisville in the tech sector, the biotech sector, and pharmaceutical industry. This is thanks to the fact that a good hunk of Research Triangle Park is right there in Morrisville. There's also 8 parks, 4 greenways, and 2 community centers. And overall, Morrisville is rapidly growing. But there's also some not so great things about Morrisville as well. The growth in proximity to RDU and the Research Triangle Park have overloaded the major roads during rush hour. Expect long commutes, unfortunately, even though you're relatively close to both RDU and Research Triangle Park. There's also a high cost of living. The median home price is currently sitting around $505,000, which is not terrible, but it's also not as great as some of the other suburbs around Raleigh and certainly in further areas out from the major suburbs. Also, another huge negative of Morrisville, you're really close to the RDU Airport, which is great when you're trying to get to the RDU Airport, but it's not so great in that you can expect frequent airplane noise from a good hunk of wherever you live in Morrisville. It's also very highly car dependent. There's not a lot of public transportation in the area, and there's absolutely no downtown or nightlife or any walkable entertainment in Morrisville. And overall, Morrisville has a very limited aesthetic character. It's fairly bland. And a lot of Morrisville has grown up very quickly over the last few years as land has become more sparse in Cary and Apex and in Raleigh. And so therefore a lot of the growth has happened in Morrisville, and a lot of that growth has been fairly bland. Next up, we have Durham, North Carolina. And yes, before you start commenting below, we know Durham is its own city and is not a suburb of Raleigh. However, there's so many cool things about Durham that you may want to consider living in Durham, even if you work in Raleigh, and certainly if you work in the Research Triangle Park. Durham is a very compelling place to live, so we wanted to include it on this list. So some of the best things about Durham, it's home to the vast majority of Research Triangle Park, meaning you can get to Research Triangle Park really quickly. It's also home to Duke University and the Duke Health System, the Duke Hospital. So that adds thousands of jobs to the Durham economy, making it super great to live in Durham if you work in and around Duke. It's also been named the South's tastiest town. There is a ton of really cool restaurants, especially in downtown Durham. We have to admit that we do not go to downtown Durham very often, and that is a bad thing because there's so many really cool things down there, and we got to make a point of going there. Definitely, if you're coming for an exploratory trip to the Triangle area, whether you decide to live in Durham or not, you definitely want to consider going to Durham for a good dinner out. It's a really cool place down there. There's also a really strong arts and culture scene in Durham. The Durham Performing Arts Center is down there. You can catch a Broadway play or show right there in Durham. Super great. Also, lots of greenways and parks. There's 68 parks and greenways in Durham. Great place to live if you're into hiking, biking, running, etc. Also, cost of living is 5 to 11% below the national average, depending on where in Durham you want to live. You're also really, really close to the airport. Only about 18-minute drive from most of Durham into the RDU airport. And it has some really cool, quaint downtown neighborhoods, bungalows, lots of character to the homes down in downtown Durham. There's also some not so good things about Durham. Unfortunately, heavy rush hour gridlock traffic is something you're gonna experience living in Durham. Interstate 40, Highway 147, and around RTP is gonna see some gridlock most days. Also, the public buses don't go everywhere, and there's no train system in Durham. So unfortunately, expect you're probably gonna need to have a car if you live in Durham. Also, relatively high cost of living compared to other parts of the Raleigh area. Median home price is currently coming in at $426,000. And Durham County has higher taxes than Wake County, where Raleigh is. So just be prepared, you're gonna be paying higher taxes to live in Durham. Also, there's lots of new businesses and homes are coming into Durham, which is a good thing in many ways, but unfortunately it's also raising prices of everything. Long-term residents are being pushed out due to all these prices. And also, not a lot of the neighborhoods have sidewalks or really easy, safe places to walk. You're pretty much having to walk in the grass or walk in the street if you live in most of the neighborhoods in Durham. Next up, we have Chapel Hill, North Carolina. One of the best things about Chapel Hill, it's home to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, the oldest public university in the entire United States, so it has really, really cool character there. Also, UNC Hospitals and UNC Health is in Chapel Hill. So obviously Chapel Hill is a great place to live if you want to go to school, university, or maybe you want to take continuing education classes, some great stuff there. As well, if you need world-class healthcare, living in Chapel Hill is a great option for you. Also, you've got Franklin Street. This is the really cool main street in Chapel Hill. Lots of locally owned shops and restaurants on Franklin Street, as well as rooftop bars and museums. Chapel Hill was recognized by Bon Appetit magazine as one of America's foodiest small towns. Lots of really cool restaurants in the Chapel Hill area. And lastly, but not least, the North Carolina Botanical Garden is in Chapel Hill. If you're into plants, Chapel Hill is one of the ideal places to live in the entire United States. There's also some not so good things about Chapel Hill. The roads in and around Chapel Hill can be crowded, especially if you're talking about on game days for football or men's basketball. You're gonna expect and experience a lot of crowding on the roads in Chapel Hill as well. Restaurants are not so easy to get into on game days. You have a ton of people that come into the area, and of course they're going to want to have a meal before or after the game. So be prepared that you probably need to make reservations well in advance of game days if you want to go out and eat dinner if you live in Chapel Hill. As well, parking near the campus is fairly limited, and you can experience some long wait times and driving around trying to find parking. And there's a really high cost of living in Chapel Hill. Home prices are higher in Chapel than most anywhere else in the Triangle. Median home price currently coming in at $660,000. And therefore, as you can imagine, there's not a lot of affordable housing in Chapel Hill. It's a big, big negative and something the local town government is really worried about and trying to make better for Chapel Hill. But unfortunately, most of the homes in Chapel Hill skew on the high end side. It's very car dependent city. If you do not live and or work around the UNC campus, you're going to expect to need to drive around places. Another big negative, UNC shapes a lot of what the town feels like. If you don't want to feel like you're living in a giant university and being back in college, Chapel Hill may not be an ideal place for you. The university is the 800-pound giant in Chapel Hill, just something you have to expect. As well, lots of restaurants and shops close early, especially during the summer when there's not a lot of students around. They close, and you can expect that you're not going to be able to get into a nice restaurant or into a nice shop because they closed at probably 6 o'clock or 7 or 8 o'clock. Not something you're going to experience when the students are in town, but again, when the students are in town, things get a little bit crowded, so positives and negatives of both. Next up, we have Pittsboro, North Carolina, and Pittsboro is growing very, very rapidly. Chatham Park is a mega development that's getting underway now. in Pittsboro, and it will add thousands of homes and businesses to Pittsboro and change Pittsboro from being a 5,000 to 10,000 person little town to a mega large city very, very soon. Another great thing about Pittsboro, it has 131 historic buildings, so it's very, very historic and has lots of character. Also, lots of local boutiques and shops and restaurants, especially in the downtown area of Pittsboro. Also, 6 local parks are right in Pittsboro, so great opportunity to be out enjoying the outdoor lifestyle. And overall, that lifestyle is fairly quiet. You've got access to a lot of big city stuff, but small town atmosphere still is what you're going to experience in Pittsboro. There's also really good housing market. It's fairly competitive. You can find a nice home in Pittsboro without having to do multiple bids and fight for a great home in Pittsboro. Unfortunately, there's some not so good things about Pittsboro. It is a small town, very small town still. It has few local shops, few restaurants. This is changing, but know that if you move to Pittsboro right now, you're going to have a need to drive into Chapel Hill, or at least towards Chapel Hill, for a nice meal, nice shopping, etc. Many areas in Pittsboro lack sidewalks, and there's very limited public transportation. A couple of other negatives about Pittsboro. Therefore, having a car is essential for work, shopping, or just getting around. Unfortunately, also, Pittsboro has relatively few job opportunities, especially in areas like technology or retail. You're gonna have to drive into Chapel Hill or into the Research Triangle Park to get a good high-paying job if you live in Pittsboro. Therefore, most people must commute to bigger cities for work. It's unfortunately just a fact of life living in Pittsboro. That all being said, with Chatham Park coming online, Pittsboro's going to dramatically change. There will be some opportunities. Pittsboro will have some higher paying jobs and more plentiful jobs coming in the very near future. Next up, we have Knightdale, North Carolina, and one of the great things about Knightdale, it's just 9 miles east of downtown Raleigh. It's a relatively peaceful setting. You have easy access to a lot of city amenities, but by and large, Knightdale is a fairly relaxed, chill place to live. There's lots of parks in Knightdale. Another great positive, you have Knightdale Station Park, the Mingo Creek Greenway, Harbor Park, and many, many other places to get out and be one with nature. Another really great thing about Knightdale is Prime Barbecue is in Knightdale. It's Texas style barbecue, brisket, pork barbecue, sausage, etc. Really great food. One of our favorite barbecue joints in the entire Triangle area. This coming from a local Eastern North Carolina resident. I know barbecue. You owe it to yourself to go check out Prime Barbecue. They're only open during the lunch hours, so be prepared to stand in line and get there early. Also, there's lots of cool local events in Knightdale. They have food truck Thursdays, outdoor movie nights, and a farmer's market that runs from May to October. Also, you've got really quick connections to Interstate 540 and Interstate 87 from Knightdale, making it super easy to get from Knightdale to just about any other place in the Triangle very quickly. Also, Knightdale is well known for its big box stores. We mentioned it earlier when we talked about Wendell. You've got Walmart, Lowe's, Hardware, Home Depot, Target, Kohl's shopping, all the stuff you can imagine big box wise you can find in Knightdale. But with all the positives of Knightdale, as you can imagine from watching the rest of this video, there's also some negatives to Knightdale. You can expect a lengthy commute if you live in Knightdale and work at the RDU or need to fly out of RDU Airport, or that you work at the Research Triangle Park. It's not very commuter friendly. There's no bus system, so you can expect, again, you're gonna have to drive if you live in Knightdale, unfortunately. There's also fairly limited dining opportunities. Other than Prime Barbecue and a few other things we talked about, you have lots of chain restaurants. You're talking about Chili's and Applebee's and McDonald's and things like that in Knightdale, so not a lot of really cool gourmet restaurants in Knightdale, unfortunately. It's also limited nightlife. Not a lot going on after dark, something you need to expect if you live in Knightdale. And overall, limited walkability. There's very few sidewalks and very few bike paths in Knightdale. As growth happens, hopefully this is going to change, but right now, don't expect a lot of sidewalks. Don't expect you're going to be walking around your neighborhood. Next up, we have Youngsville, North Carolina, and Youngsville has a historic downtown, which is really cute. Very affordable living, especially compared to Raleigh, Durham, Cary, or Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Also, in Youngsville, there's Hill Ridge Farms. It's a really cool private park. It's open from mid-April through October, and it features a carousel and train rides and farm animals and so much more. It's a really, really cool place. My second cousins, that are basically my niece and nephew, had their second birthday party at Hill Ridge Farms. All the kids loved it. It was super, super cool. Great place to go. If you live in and around Youngsville, you owe it to yourself to go check out Hill Ridge Farms. And also, Youngsville has a fairly good location. You're only about 25 minutes from Raleigh, Wake Forest, and Research Triangle Park via US 1, making Youngsville a fairly compelling place to live if you need to commute. But with all the goods, there's also some bads. Youngsville is experiencing a lot of growth, so even a short trip can take you up to 30 minutes or longer to get from point A to point B around Youngsville. Also, no bus service. Expect you're gonna have to drive if you're gonna need to get to that point A to point B we talked about. Also, it's a relatively high cost of living for a small town. There's limited entertainment and limited dining options in Youngsville, and there's no major hospital system nearby. You're gonna have to drive into Wake Forest, definitely gonna have to drive into Raleigh if you need major medical help. So after all of this information, if you can't decide which of these amazing cities to move to, we would love to guide you in that process to find you your next Raleigh area dream home. Contact us at the information below and we'll get things started for you. Check out this video. We think you're really gonna like this one as well. Like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, bye-bye.